Welcome to the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative Town Hall. My name is Anita Wu, your moderator this afternoon. Today, we have the creme de la creme of ASEAN youth right here, gathered in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, in University Malaya's Tunku Chancellor Hall. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming to stage the 44th President of the United States, President Barack Obama.
Hello, everybody. Oh, good afternoon. Selamat petang. Please, everybody have a seat. Together we can make this world more just. You know, America is the world's oldest constitutional democracy. That means we're going to stand up for democracy. It's a part of who we are. And we do this not only because we think it's right, but because it's been proven to be the most stable and successful form of government. In recent decades, many Asian nations have shown that different nations can realize the promise of self-government in their own way. They have their own path. But we must recognize that democracies don't stop just with elections. They also depend on strong institutions and a vibrant civil society, an open political space, and tolerance of people who are different than you. We have to create an environment where the rights of every citizen, regardless of race or gender or religion or sexual orientation, are not only protected but respected. So we want a future where nations that are pursuing reform, like Myanmar, like Burma, consolidate their own democracy and allow for people of different faiths and ethnicities to live together in peace. We want to see open space for civil society in all our countries so that citizens can hold their governments accountable and improve their own communities. We want to work together to ensure that we're drawing on the potential of all our people, and that means ensuring women have full and equal access to opportunity, just like men.
We now have a question from the social media, which we've been collecting over the week.
Okay.
The question comes from our friend Saw Tet Aungkant from Burma, or Myanmar. And he asks, Mr. President, what would be your own keywords or encouragement for each of us, leaders of our next generation, while we are cooperating with numerous diversities, such as different races, languages, beliefs, and cultures, not only in Myanmar, but also across ASEAN?
Good.
Thank you.
Well, it's a great question. If you look at the biggest source of conflict and war and hardship around the world, one of the most, if not the most important reasons is people treating those who are not like them differently, right? So in Myanmar right now, they're going through a transition after decades of repressive government. They're trying to open things up and make the country more democratic, and that's a very courageous process that they're going through. But the danger, now that they're democratizing, is that there are different ethnic groups and different religions inside of Myanmar, and if people start organizing politically around their religious identity or around their ethnic identity as opposed to organizing around principles of justice and rule of law and democracy, then you can actually start seeing conflicts inside those countries that could move Myanmar in a very bad direction. In particular, you've got a Muslim minority inside of Myanmar right now that the broader population has historically looked down upon and whose rights are not fully being protected. Now, that's not unique to Myanmar, right? Here in Malaysia, this is a majority Muslim country. So then there are times where those who are non-Muslims find themselves perhaps being disadvantaged or experiencing hostility. In the United States, obviously, historically, the biggest conflicts arose around race. And we had to fight a civil war, and we had to have a civil rights movement over the course of generations until I could stand before you as a president of African descent. But of course, you know, the job's not done. There's still discrimination and prejudice and ethnic conflict inside the United States that we have to be vigilant against. So my point is, all of us have within us biases and prejudices of people who are not like us, or were not raised in the same faith, or come from a different ethnic background. But the world is shrinking. It's getting smaller. You could think that way when we were all living separately in villages and tribes, and we didn't have contact with each other. We now have the internet and smartphones, and our cultures are all colliding. The world has gotten smaller. And no country is going to succeed if a part of its population is put on the sidelines because they're discriminated against. Malaysia won't succeed if non-Muslims don't have opportunity. Myanmar won't succeed if the Muslim population is oppressed. No society is going to succeed if half your population, meaning women, aren't getting the same education and employment opportunities as men. So I think the key point for all of you, especially as young people, is you should embrace your culture. You should be proud of who you are and your background, and you should appreciate the differences in language and food, and how you worship God is going to be different. And those are things that you should be proud of. But it shouldn't be a tool to look down on somebody else. It shouldn't be a reason to discriminate. And you have to make sure that you are speaking out against that in your daily life, and as you emerge as leaders, you should be on the side of politics that brings people together rather than drives them apart. That is the most important thing for this generation. And part of the way to do that is to be able to stand in other people's shoes and see through their eyes. Almost every religion has within it the basic principle that I, as a Christian, understand from the teachings of Jesus. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And if you're not doing that, and if society is not respecting that basic principle, then we're going backwards instead of going forward. And this is true all around the world. And sometimes it's among groups that those of us on the outside, they look exactly the same. In Northern Ireland, there has been a raging conflict, although they have finally come to arrive at peace, because half, or a portion of the population is Catholic, a portion is Protestant. Now, from the outside, you look, why are they arguing? They're both Irish, they speak the same language. It seems as if they'd have nothing to argue about. But that's been a part of Ireland that has been held back and is poorer and less developed than the part of Ireland that didn't have that conflict. In Africa, you go to countries, my father's country of Kenya, where oftentimes you've seen tribal conflicts. From the outside, you'd think, what are they arguing about? This is a country that has huge potential. They should be growing, but instead they spend all their time arguing and organizing politically only around tribe and around ethnicity. And then when one gets on top, they're suspicious and they're worried that the other might take advantage of them, and when power shifts, then it's payback. And we see that in society after society. The most important thing young people can do is break out of that mindset. You know, when I was in Korea, I had a chance to, or in Tokyo rather, I had a chance to see an exhibit with an astronaut, a Japanese astronaut who was at the International Space Station, and it was looking at the entire globe, and they're tracking now changing weather patterns, in part because it gives us the ability to respond to disasters quicker. And when you see astronauts from Japan or from the United States or from Russia or others working together, and they're looking down at this planet from a distance, you realize we're all on this little rock in the middle of space. And the differences that seem so important to us from a distance dissolve into nothing. And so we have to have that same perspective, respecting everybody, treating everybody equally under the law. That has to be a principle that all of you uphold. All right? Good. Great question.